This episode is brought to you by Bureau, our title sponsor. With 8 vibrant locations in Miami's best neighborhoods, Bureau is the perfect co-working place to work, network, and thrive alongside other entrepreneurs, creatives, professionals, and local businesses. Find your space at bureaumiami.com. All right, I think we're good to go.
We're good?
Yeah, we're live.
We're live. We're in Bonita Springs. We're on the road, Ben.
We're on the road.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike. Bureau, we had to leave the building for a minute. Built World has hit the road. We're in Bonita Springs at the ULI Summit, Florida Summit. We're sitting here with Nikki Greenberg.
I know you guys are like, oh, you've traveled so far, all of 2 hours.
This is a long ways for us. I mean, we left the United States, or we left Latin America. Now we're in the United States.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, hold on a sec. Let's be clear, because we're at the Gulf of America now. I've never
Gulf
been
of
to the
America.
Gulf of America. I've been to the Gulf of Mexico.
This is my first time at the Gulf of America as well.
It's a beautiful place.
It's a beautiful place. We're super excited to have you, Nikki, on the podcast. We're here at the ULI Florida Summit, where it's a 2-day ULI event, and Nikki's one of the keynote speakers. So she has brought her crystal ball with us. She's the CEO of the Real Estate of the Future, and she's a futurist. So we're going to really dig into some really cool shit, Ben.
Let's peek into the future.
Yeah.
No pressure, right?
No pressure at all.
With Negronis and Mezcal.
Yeah, cheers, by the way.
Yeah, cheers,
Nikki.
Nikki.
There you go. Cheers. There you go. Cheers. Excellent. I like how you're licking me up straight away. It's like, I don't know where this is going to go.
We actually met Nikki at the bar, which is a great way to meet someone.
Proper Built World, bar standard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're here at the Hyatt Regency. Is that where we're at, Ben?
Yeah, Hyatt Regency Coconut Point.
Yeah.
Well, hold a sec. When you say that you met me at the bar, to be clear, we prearranged it.
Yeah, we prearranged it. We didn't just pick Nikki up.
Come on, Nikki. Like let us pretend we got some game.
Yeah.
Listen,
exactly.
I see the wedding ring. Don't get me in trouble. Let's be clear.
I love it.
Let us pretend.
Yeah.
We met this futurist at the bar. We pulled her into our podcast studio, and here we are.
We're married. We still have a little bit of game, please. Give us a break.
I got no game, dude. I'm hopeless. No game.
Well, we're super stoked to talk to you. We love, we love technology. We love talking about what our potential built world future could look like. And it seems like you've got some great perspective. And before we get into that, though, we want a little background. The accent is Australian.
Kind of.
Okay, so give us a little background on the kind of Australian accent.
Well, the kind of is originally from South Africa. So that's why there's a little bit of a difference. Moved to Australia when I started high school.
Okay. So your parents are both South African?
My father's from Zimbabwe.
Okay.
Yeah, just to be clear.
Okay. And your mom?
South Africa.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you guys moved to Australia?
We moved to Australia.
But
when
you
I
were
started
born in
high
South
school.
Africa?
That's right. So
Yeah.
I was that generation that was part of the transition. So half of my time there was during apartheid. And then the other half was end of apartheid, Nelson Mandela coming in, the start of the new South Africa. Actually, I have one tattoo, and it's of the flag of the new South Africa because of the vision that brings. So very transformative time, going from this very closed country with this.
Can you tell us where the tattoo is?
Oh, listen. If you stay true to your promise to join me on the water slides later, you'll see it's just above my bikini line. So.
Nice.
Well, we're definitely good. That's a reason to go out there, right?
Go shred some water slides?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be out there. Give me one more mezcal, and I'll be going down head first.
I don't know how many you guys had before I came along, but Jesus.
Just one. Just
a warm up.
So, and what did your parents do? Were they in real estate?
So my mom is an interior designer. So she was actually part of, I think, like the first or second graduating class in South Africa. So growing up, they used to renovate, houses and flip them. And, the home that I grew up in was always a building site, so I kind of grew up around that. And then my father is an oral and maxillofacial surgeon. So, very much from a creative and, scientific medical kind of family. So he kind of drilled into my sister and I to have like a work ethic. You've really got to like study hard, work hard. He went straight from university into private practice, which is almost unheard of, and very entrepreneurial guy.
Okay. And so it's just you and your sister?
Just me and my sister, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what brought them to Australia?
In South Africa, if you could get out, you do get out. It's that
Yeah.
simple. So, yeah, better opportunities.
Okay.
Sounds like rural Minnesota.
Well, and also, just to be clear, when I was in South Africa, it was the murder capital of the world.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
and things have not improved either. So it's
Why is it so violent? What is...
Oh my gosh, I try to steer clear of politics. I mean, when I was, it was basically that there was a large population that was very disenfranchised and didn't have much opportunity. And now it's just political chaos and, the promise of Nelson Mandela of this better, opportunity for the citizens of South Africa just hasn't come into fruition because of a lot of corruption and division and blah, 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 blah. So, beautiful place, wonderful people, but it needs,
Do you
it's
consider
broken.
yourself more South African or more Australian?
Now Australian, because
Yeah.
I was in Australia for about 20 years, but I'll always be very proud to be from South Africa.
Okay. And so you moved to Australia, to South Africa, or to Australia for how old were you?
When I started high school, so when I was 13.
So 13.
Yeah.
All right.
The formative years.
The
Yeah.
formative years, they say after 12, you don't lose your accent, which I believe is true. And the other nice thing that happened is that when I moved to Australia, I got to skip a year of high school, so that made me very happy.
Why? Because you were smarter than them, or
It was just like,
these Australians are surfing too much? We got a year on them.
I don't know. I think it was just kind of like the way the ages kind of lined up or whatever. So you
Sure.
had the option, and I was like, great. And I'm like, sure, I'll move to Australia if I can skip a year, and
And where were you living in Australia? Sydney?
Initially Perth.
Okay.
So yeah.
And Perth is the third largest city in Australia?
I don't even know, to be honest. When I was there, it had a population of, I think, maybe 1.1 million people, 3 skyscrapers.
Okay.
Like, people used to describe it as an overgrown country town.
Okay.
I don't know how that compares to Minnesota, but
Way more than Minnesota. Way more.
And so what were you interested in high school? What were your subjects that you most gravitated towards?
I think the subject I most gravitated towards was economics.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I was a good student. I graduated in the top 1% of the state and, excelled at a lot of subjects. But, yeah, loved economics, physics, art, math, everything.
Okay.
English literature
Yeah.
was, we had the most fantastic teacher.
Any sports or anything like that you were interested in?
No, 0.
Zero sports? So you were a true academic person.
True academic,
A
love.
real nerd is what you're saying.
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. As I was saying to you guys before we started recording, I've literally, even now as an adult, I spent the weekend doing some coding and learning how to do automations. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. It's like,
Loser.
hey, I'm cool now. I'm having a cocktail with you guys.
Hey, it worked. It
Yeah.
worked.
Also, don't insult your guests so early on. Save it for the end.
Well, I just looked it up. Perth. I didn't realize Perth is on the western coast of Australia.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, most isolated city in the world.
Really?
So, yeah.
Because between Perth and Sydney is just wilderness. It's just
Yeah, just desert, just flat.
things that will kill you.
Yeah, and cattle, lots of cattle.
A lot of cattle.
Camels,
And
sheep.
why did your parents go to Perth?
I mean, it was a easier move. Also, my father, as an oral surgeon, they had a skill shortage, so he didn't have to requalify.
Yeah.
So for him to move at 40 and be able to work straight away kind of worked out.
Yep.
Super safe, really good lifestyle. So
And
yeah.
your mom continued working there as well?
No, she was, by that stage, she was working for my father in his practice.
Okay.
So, yeah,
All right.
yeah.
And did you have any early inklings to real estate, or what were you interested in when you were younger?
Yeah, so I always thought I'd probably go either, follow in the footsteps of one of my parents. So either go into, architecture, which I ultimately did, or something medical. But I remember when I was finishing off high school and my grandmother was visiting from South Africa at the time, my Granny Goldie, and I was applying for university and trying to decide what course I wanted to do. And I said to my granny, Granny, I think I want to study medicine. What do you think? And she said to me, she kind of waits for a little while and she goes, She goes, you know, Nikki, we have 11 doctors in the family. Can you study law?
Mix it up a bit. Make it interesting for grandma.
Yeah,
exactly. No. But I mean, ultimately, so I moved to Sydney when I started university. And one of the reasons was that I studied at the University of New South Wales, and they offered a combined degree in architecture and commerce. And, you know, that kind of combination served me well in my career, because being an architect with a business brain is, no offense to other architects, but it works very well in a development setting, because you understand the motivations aren't just design outcomes, there's also business outcomes. So being able to translate, vision and design into business outcomes and profit actually creates a better project and helps you get things across the line.
That makes sense. We see a lot of the most successful architects, like, we're very focused on Miami, have that eye for the business side of things, because they need to work with the developers. Let's maximize rentable square footage. Let's, do this stuff that doesn't just look pretty and cost a ton of money.
Yeah, and I think that's, I don't know what the education system's like here, but I think for me there was definitely a gap in the education system, is not understanding that, and actually it was through one of the reasons I started being involved with the Urban Land Institute in Australia, is because it was multidisciplinary. And before I started, going to ULI events, I thought that, buildings were places for people to enjoy and for people to be in. I didn't understand that buildings were also an asset class, because we weren't taught that. We didn't understand there was this financial lens that really drives the projects, because we're taught only to understand the design outcomes. So, when you're architects and developers speaking two completely different languages and two completely different motivations, it doesn't work. So, as I said, I was fortunate that I did a combined degree between, understanding both design and commercial outcomes. So it worked well for me. But I think generally speaking, it's very hard for, creative architects to have their visions destroyed without understanding the why. And, I think there needs to be a lot more business acumen and business subjects, brought into the architectural education, so that they can get better outcomes for their clients that are commercially driven.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, whether we like it or not, money drives every decision in a development project. So if you don't understand where the decisions are, the driver of the decisions, it's hard to make a proper design proposal that speaks to that.
Yeah, 1,000%. And my last role, we're fast forwarding a little bit, but during the pandemic, I went back to Australia. So I moved to New York in 2017, but during the pandemic, I went back to Australia for 2 years, and I worked for a company called QIC, which is a global real estate investment corporation. And in the real estate vertical, they have about $22 billion in assets under management. And working for an investment manager, I started to understand another side of the business, and understanding the funds, and understanding your fiduciary responsibility is really to the funds. And I'm coming from this architecture background, thinking, you want to create these beautiful experiences, etc. You're understanding that there are very different motivations that drive decisions that you're not privy to in other positions. And I think that's something that I think again is quite lacking in our profession, is really understanding those different factors that are driving decisions. Through different perspectives, because our industry is so collaborative. So if you only are an expert in your silo and you don't see that bigger picture because you've never been exposed to it, because it's a different role, a different function, a different company, or a different setup, or a different structure, whatever it is, it's very hard to be as effective or really get a great outcome, because profit drives everything, that's the reality. But when you can be smart about how you maneuver things, or how you make decisions, or how you find or add value, then that's the way you get a great outcome, and it's pretty good.
It makes a lot of sense.
But you have an urban design background as well.
So my first job was working in urban design with Lend-Lease. So,
okay.
Yep.
And I'm not familiar with who is it?
Lend-Lease.
And what are they all about?
So Lend-Lease is an Australian company. They also have quite a large presence in the US and the UK, etc.
Lend-Lease, like L-E-N-D lease?
Yep.
Got it.
So there's probably a more professional way of introducing them, but in a nutshell, they're a developer. They do a lot of different types of developments. They're huge. I was working as an urban designer on mixed-use residential master plan communities. So, house and land, retail centre, etc. on kind of the outskirts of Sydney. So anyway, call it for argument's sake, 1,200 residences, that kind of size of things.
But very much mixed use.
Mixed use, correct.
Yeah. Okay. And so after you graduated, that's the first place you went to go work?
Yeah. Well, I was still studying when I joined them because I
Okay.
spent a very long time at university. Because I'm a nerd, I'm a geek. What else did he call me?
I believe it was loser.
No, I didn't join them because I was a loser. I can tell you that.
And I'm sorry, when did you graduate from school?
I think I finally finished, because I have 3 degrees.
Okay.
So I think I finally finished up, I want to say, was it 2008 or I think 2008 for my architecture masters and 2010 for my commerce masters. So I went part-time for the commerce masters, which I'd recommend for everyone to do your commerce masters while you're working because you get a lot more out of it.
And I'm sorry, it's a commerce master's?
Yeah.
And can you give us a little background about what that is?
So commerce, or what you might call like business.
Okay, business
Basically,
degree.
Yeah, business
Okay.
degree.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So working while you get your business degree, you're saying? Get
Yeah.
the exposure, and you can apply it to
Yeah.
what you're learning.
Yep, exactly. And then you can actually go to your lecturers and say, hey, I'm working on X, Y, and Z in the office. What's your perspective on things? Or, for me, because I'm a loser, I go down these like rabbit holes of, oh, well, this is really relevant to the job that I'm doing at the moment. Let's like really delve deep into this kind of a thing. I just want to point out, I say delve because I use that word and not because ChatGPT tells me to.
Delve?
You got to be suspect now. Like anyone that has a good vocabulary, like you heard that on chat.
But I honestly think anybody that's using an M dash, nobody ever used an M dash before ChatGPT.
I agree 100%.
By the way, is that what they're called? The dash? It's M dash, right?
Yep, that long one. Yeah.
Because whenever we use chat, I'm like, dude, you got to take the dashes out. That's a
you
dead
yeah,
giveaway.
It's a dead giveaway.
Yeah, exactly.
Why does ChatGPT insist
loves
on using
the
that? And I
dashes.
tell ChatGPT, I'm like, take the dash out. And it continues putting it in there.
Yeah, and the Oxford comma, it's like too many Oxford commas that don't belong there.
Yeah.
Is that the semicolon?
And it's the comma before an and.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I love semicolons. That's like one of my favorite grammatic. Because I love run-on sentences. I just want to keep going. So, but chat is starting to give me away. They're like, you're using chat. I'm like, dude, I just love to keep typing. I don't know.
I'm gonna love the transcripts of what you just said. Just like
We're gonna confuse the shit out of it. Yeah.
I think we're gonna confuse the YouTube algorithm when
Yeah.
they start like trawling through, and it's like, is this about real estate or is it about punctuation?
They're screwed. The robots are screwed. This is how we get ahead of them, by the way.
Yeah.
So you worked for that master plan community developer,
Yeah.
and where did you go after that?
So
And how was that, by the way? Did you enjoy that work? Like, what was that?
Oh,
like?
I loved it. So I didn't study urban design at all, but I got a job in urban design. And what I loved about it is because, coming from an architecture degree, we're very much about the building, and I'm very detail oriented, so I'd start designing the furniture and get down to the nitty gritty. But when you do master plan design, as you guys have interviewed, urban designers and urban planners, you've really got to zoom out. And it teaches you to have this, big picture focus and understand if you can just kind of organize the complexity of things, then everything else falls into place. So I loved it. It was really, Lend Lease is really about, the best of the best, getting, site safety, green credentials, XYZ, everything, every single tick box they could get, they'd go for it. So just really being in a very Type A environment was wonderful. So I loved it. And then 2008 hit.
Ben, you know what they say in real estate, if people don't know you, they're not doing business with you.
Exactly. That's why the Built World podcast works with top of mind public relations, because being a best kept secret sure doesn't pay the bills.
Paula Uspa Abbott, the brains behind Top of Mind PR, is a former real estate journalist, so she knows exactly what makes the media pay attention.
And let's be real, getting in the press isn't just about bragging rights. It's about building credibility, landing deals, and making sure the right people know your name.
Whether it's top-tier media coverage, killer storytelling, or just making sure you're the one people think of first, Top of Mind PR has you covered.
Want to stand out? Hit up topofmind-pr.com or email info@topofmind-pr.com.
Because in real estate, if you're not visible, you're invisible. Ben, you and I are all about prop tech, and if there's one tool we absolutely cannot live without for a commercial real estate brokerage business at Gridline Properties, it's Vista.
Absolutely. Vista is incredible. We use it every single day, and we're always wondering, how do they do this? Every evening we get an email from them with real-time closed transactions. No more waiting around for months for the property appraiser to finally update.
Yeah, whether you're doing industrial, retail, office, land deals, they have every closed transactions. And it's not just the speed, Ben. The details are on point. Seller and buyer info, contact details, phone numbers, emails, everything is accurate.
It's hands down our top prospecting tool to farm for warehouse deals in Hialeah. Vista keeps us one step ahead always. It's also the best way to search for comps when putting together opinions of values for clients.
Head on over to Vista.com and use code BuiltWorld and get 30 days free access today. VIZZDA.com. So, quick question: as a now futurist, are you a proponent of mixed use and density?
As a developer and as a city dweller, 1,000%.
Okay.
1,000%.
All right, we like to hear that.
We're big Jane Jacobs guys over here.
Yeah.
Jane Jacobs,
Yeah.
yeah. The life and death of American
cities.
City.
Yeah.
So you're anti-Robert Moses?
You know, that book was incredible, by the way.
By the way, Robert Moses, asshole, also got a lot of shit done.
Yeah, he did get a lot of shit done.
So it's kind of like, I don't know.
Did you read his book?
I didn't. They had, I think it may have been on 99% Invisible that they actually did a series.
Oh, did they?
There was somebody who, I believe that somebody read the book and basically, I think they may have done it over maybe like 5 episodes.
It's like 1,200 pages.
Yeah, and he dramatizes everything when he retells what happens in the book. And he's like, and then this person, then controversy, and then this, and then, and like the old-timey newspaper men. It was a fun one.
For our listeners, Robert Moses was what was his title? Do you remember?
He had about 30 titles, but he was basically, he basically put himself into almost every position of power so that he could just veto everything and get whatever he wanted done and steamroll things.
Yeah. Eminent domain farms across New York to build highways, and he would always tell people, he would tell the government, oh, it's going to cost $20 million to get this done, and then it would $20 million in, it'd be an eighth of the way done. He's like, what are you going to do? You going to approve more money, or are you going to leave this half-built structure for everyone to look at? He
was one of the most powerful people in New York City for about 40 years.
Yeah.
And the book is called The Power Broker. I personally didn't read it. I listened to it.
By the way, I did read it.
You did?
Yeah.
I read it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I read it.
Well, I think
I don't remember most of it, but I read it.
Well, I think it shows our 3 different listening styles. I go for the comedic retelling. You read the actual version, and you do it on the audiobooks. So.
But it's an incredible book. I mean, it's especially if anyone's from New York, you'll start understanding like how New York City developed, and a lot of the parkways and into the suburbs, expressways. It's an incredible book, and it really talks about how one man concentrated a lot of power and how he was able to really set the vision for a very much an auto-centric vision for New York City.
Yeah, it's kind of like we were talking about unions earlier. It's like asshole, but also got a lot of shit done.
He did get a lot of shit done. He's very controversial.
It's hard to say.
And then at one point, him and Jane Jacobs kind of butted heads. Yeah. But in the book, it wasn't even discussed. Jane Jacobs. I guess the book was already 1,200 pages long, and
that was enough.
Who wrote the book? Was it Green? Who was it?
It wasn't Robert Greene. I don't remember who it was.
He was like, I can't write anymore. Like this book cannot be 1,500 pages.
Yeah.
But
how many hours?
I think it was well over it was close to 40 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's what you look for an audiobook.
Yeah.
I can get the most out of these credits. Get those hours up.
What's your listening speed?
I just go 1.
Me too, dude.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I'm a little slow. It takes me a little time to process too. I'm not a nerd like you, so
I gotta think about that sentence. Yeah. Let it sink in.
So it takes me a little time to process things.
But you liked the mixed use aspect of that job, basically.
Yeah.
And you think that makes sense in urban design?
I'm a big believer in mixed use for a number of reasons, and also diurnal use, so that it's active during the day, active in the evenings. And
what's the name for that?
Diurnal.
DIU. That's a new word.
Vocab for the day on the billboard.
Absolutely.
Right,
Wordly wise word right there.
So active during the day and during the night. So not just like a nightclub that's empty all day.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And, I love examples where you see where it might be a barber shop that's also a coffee shop, and then in the evening it's a bar, and, that you actually give places a lot more life and activity at different times. So, yeah.
So after Land Lease,
Uh-huh.
what did you do?
So after Lend Lease,
Lend Lease, sorry.
went over to London. It was 2008. Had a gap year. On my way back, I went through India and I interned with an architect called Sanjay Puri for about 3 months.
In India?
In India.
Where in India?
In Mumbai.
Okay.
So his
Crazy place.
Crazy place.
Crazy
Wonderful,
place.
wonderful to live there, and wonderful to be working in architecture there because their building codes are very different to Australia. I can tell you that.
Are there building codes?
I'd say a lot more lax.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you one thing. I don't recall a lot. And I'll be honest with you. I think I was more of a novelty in the office than really effective. My colleagues were amazing though.
Just a white girl in the office. They were happy to see you.
Kind of. They're like.
There's someone white here, like someone different.
They're like, yeah. I mean, they really adopted me. It's wonderful. Like at lunchtime, everybody sits together and they all open up all their food and share everything. And we go out to the street vendors. But I remember like the one thing that really stuck out to me was with the staircases. They didn't have to have handrails. I was like, oh my God, this is so nice. Because as an architect, you're like, oh, I do this beautiful staircase. And then you have to like destroy it with like the building code and the safety rails. So
no safety there.
yeah, just different levels of responsibility.
So you're anti-handrail? Is that what I'm hearing?
I mean, listen, just don't fall off.
Don't be an idiot. You got this. They're just stairs.
Yeah. I mean, if you have kids, have
Yeah.
handrails. But if you're a grown adult,
Use
personal
their hands.
responsibility. Yeah.
Did you notice the 08, obviously, financial crisis in the U.S. was like the biggest thing that's happened to us. Did you notice that in London or India when you were?
Yeah, 1,000%. So, for us outside of the US, we call it the global financial crisis because it completely annihilated the property industry in the UK, in Australia, not so much in India, which was quite exciting for me to experience. But I think one of the things I also learned out of that experience was because I was a new graduate. I came out, I was top student, hard worker, had worked for this great company, etc. And what I also realized is that, well, when the economy sinks, kind of the canary in the coal mine are the architects, because you can stop a project when it's still on paper. So architects are some of the first ones to get laid off. And, in terms of job security and stability, it's absolutely atrocious as a job. So, it was beyond the US.
So you felt the global strain, just things slowed way down.
Oh, yeah. I mean, things just collapsed.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so in India, what were you doing there? You were what was that job description?
So I mean, I was an architect intern. So I was working on a hotel in Kolkata, which I think took about 8 years before it was finally complete. And I will say looked very different to what I designed, but that's okay.
Did you go stay there?
Pardon? No, I didn't get to visit it. No. So, but it was great. I enjoyed kind of learning because I'd worked a lot on residential. So learning how to design a hotel and understanding change rooms and wet areas and, kind of like back of house spaces and how you do all that programming and sequencing also. So, so I quite enjoyed it. And also India's exciting because it sounds like you've visited there. Is that?
I've been, yeah. I went back in right before 08, it was 07. We did Chennai to, where's the Taj Mahal? What city is that? Agra. Chennai to Agra and then down to New Delhi. So toured around a bit, but it's a chaotic place for sure. It's an experience.
Yeah.
It's a full experience. It's a whole other world. It's like visiting another planet, really. Did
you go on the trains? The sleeper trains?
I did not go on the trains, no. But I've seen and heard many experiences.
Yeah, I'll tell you an unrelated story since we do that anyway, apparently here. So when I was in India, a friend of mine from architecture school, his name's Andy, he came and met up with me in Delhi. And we planned, that's right, we were trying to plan where do we want to visit in India? And we wrote down a whole lot of places. And we're like, no, we can't visit that many. We crossed them off, added some in, blah, blah, blah. We ended up doing, I think it was 11 cities in 7 days.
Wow.
Because we wanted to see so many places, especially places that we'd studied, because there's amazing architecture there from Louis Kahn and Le Corbusier and obviously Taj Mahal and these ancient places and Khajuraho, etc. And so Andy's from Hong Kong, and he's very kind, very sweet guy. And because he's from Hong Kong, he's used to being in a place that's very orderly and very proper. So we get to Delhi, and he's like a little bit spooked, just because he hasn't found his feet. I'd already been in India for a few months, and the first thing we do is we get an overnight train. We get on this train, we're sharing this compartment with all these guys from the military, and they all just have their rifles, on the train. And he's like, I'm not going to be able to sleep. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But I can say you can do 11 cities in 7 days, and it's a good way to do it. You do these overnight trains, come out, do a tour, take your photos, go to a cafe, and, off on your way. It's a fun way to travel.
It is.
It always reminds me of the Darjeeling Limited.
Oh yeah, Darjeeling
the Wes
Express.
Anderson movie.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. It's fun.
A much nicer version of the actual experience, I'm sure.
I'm sure there's the creme de la creme of trains there too. Just
that's
not
the
the
crazy thing
ones
about India. You have the highest level of luxury and the lowest level of poverty that you could ever possibly imagine living right next to each other. It's crazy.
Yeah, and you have a lot of smarts and entrepreneurialism. And I think that's what really struck me being there, especially after being in the UK, in the UK when, as I said, everything was collapsing. And then being in India where people just thought, oh, wow, there's just endless opportunity here. We are the greatest nation. We have so much change. We have so much excitement happening, So I think India's an astonishing place with so many brains. So we'll see what happens there.
A lot of smart people there. And then the population is crazy. I think India's been the next to pop for the last 10 years, I feel like. But it's just, it takes that momentum.
Yeah. And there's something too where there's some stat about how many of the world's the Fortune 500 or Fortune 100 companies where the CEO is Indian origin too. So I think there's a lot that we're going to see out of India
for sure
coming through.
But you only spent 3 months in India.
Yeah, I only spent 3 months there.
But in India years, that probably felt like a year.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Right? I had to feel like that's a whole lifetime.
It was
It's a lot.
It's a lot of stimulation. You're I'm way out of my element here. And that's when you kind of learn a lot about yourself too, right? It's when you're not in your element, you really discover who you really are.
Yeah, 1,000%. And being in a place that is kind of another world because it's just such a strong cultural difference, and it's so lively and invigorating and kind of chaotic that it's just it's a feast to the senses. So
it really is.
Yeah.
So what happened after India?
So after India, came back to Australia. I joined a company called the Buchan Group, who specialises in shopping centres. So I started designing shopping centres in centres in Australia and big centres in China as well. And again, I loved it because similar to urban design and master planning, you're working on these big complex projects and you're kind of zooming out.
Are these dense shopping centers, or are they just kind of like strip mall, American
I suppose
style?
what you'd call a mall.
Yeah.
So big malls, massive
indoor
malls.
malls.
Indoor malls,
correct.
vertical retail.
Yep. So massive luxury developments, stunning, but super, super, super fast paced because we'd be doing construction documentation while they were building.
Wow.
And you've also got to think about cultural differences and language differences and differences in building codes and different things that kind of pop up that are different to the Australian standards. So bundle of fun. But
And how long did you do that for?
So I was there for about a year, and then I was pinched by Koichi Takada, who's a Japanese architect in Australia, one of Australia's top architects, and he was expanding his practice. Definitely worth looking up. He's kind of like Kengo Kuma. They've collaborated on a few things before. He's collaborated with Jean Nouvel as well, and super design focused. I came in there as, I think, employee number 6. I think he may be at 150 or 200 people now, doing beautiful work. Very good at pushing a great design outcome and doing something very different, but also something that's commercially driven and understanding that business side of things too. So,
And what were you designing most? What type of asset?
Doing, apartment buildings, apartment interiors. I brought my knowledge of shopping centres in as well. Doing competition work also for mixed use. luxury residential. Kind of a mix of things, but mostly apartment buildings.
All right.
When do we I'm on mute. When do we to the futurist portion of your career? Like, when did that really take hold?
Yeah, so the futurist portion of my work really came when, so basically, following on from Koichi, working with him was wonderful. Then I finished business school, so I worked for property developers, being Pace and Greenland, working for them in-house. And eventually I was like, well, I need a bigger challenge, and that's when I was like, well, if I'm going to move jobs, like, why don't I look at moving to New York? Like, I don't have a husband, don't have kids, don't have a dog.
Had you been to America before?
Plenty of times.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So I'd go to New York almost on an annual basis.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah,
that's a long ways to go.
It's a long way to go. It's expensive, too, to take that flight.
It's really long ways to go. We were talking about this. I'm like, I want to go to Australia, but, like, I want to take a month to go there. Like,
we were literally just having at the bar. We're like, Australia is on both of our lists.
But I'm like, I want to fly first class, and I want to spend a week, 2 weeks in Australia, 2 weeks in Australia. I want to fly back first class. Like, it's a long ways away. So you're just jet setting every year to New York.
And flying economy at that time too. So,
that's like a 20-hour flight.
Yeah, a little
that's
bit
no
more
joke.
Than that. It's no joke, but I can't.
So why were you coming to New York?
I just loved it.
Yeah.
I just loved being in New York. I love the energy. Always had a lot of fun. I actually did an exchange program at one point to Montreal when I was at university, and I was coming to New York every few weekends.
Wow.
So
you got away from those asshole French people.
Those French Canadians. Those French Canadians.
They take themselves so seriously out there.
No, they're wonderful.
It's a beautiful city.
It is a great city.
Yeah,
very
Montreal's
cold.
beautiful.
Very cold.
Yeah.
I remember my last day in Montreal, I think was like minus 22.
Yeah.
I didn't even say goodbye to my friends. I just, I said, I'm like, guys.
I'm out of here.
I said, I'm out of here. Went to Miami. This was in 2004. Went to Miami. I was like, holy smoke, this is so much better.
Yeah.
Jumped in the ocean. I was like, this is heaven. Like,
so you're kind of our first non-South Florida guest, I think, right?
I mean, we've had some New Yorkers like Nikki.
Yeah, but they're they have a presence. What do you think about Miami?
I love Miami.
You do?
Yeah, I love Miami.
What do you like about it?
I think this is going to sound weird, but I think more than anything, I love the plants.
The plants.
Yeah, like the trees.
The people, not so much.
I mean, no. I've generally been in Miami as a tourist or visiting friends. So I haven't like been working in Miami or whatever. So when you say, the people, it's like, well, I haven't really like hung out with people that much,
Yeah.
So like I love the nature. I love the sea. It's, I love that aspect. Like around like Coral Gables and Coconut Grove, and like I've been like looking at properties going, maybe.
Felipe, ever since we moved into Bureau, my productivity has been through the roof. I mean, I might actually be getting things done for once.
The energy at Bureau just makes work fun. Plus, with 8 locations across South Florida, from South Miami all the way to Hollywood, there's no excuse for not finding a spot to get your shit done, Ben.
And we're not alone. Over 500 local companies call Bureau home. Everything from creative agencies and real estate firms to tech startups, law firms, and media companies. It's a melting pot of brilliant people, and we don't include ourselves in that category.
We definitely don't include ourselves in that category. Bureau really has space for anyone, whether you're flying solo or have a team. There are suites starting at 100 square feet all the way up to 2,000 square feet. They also don't try to lock you into long-term agreements, and everything is month to month.
Let's not forget the important stuff either. The coffee is top tier, staff is incredible, and has a very entrepreneurial vibe. It's not just a workspace, it's a place where work actually gets done.
That's right, Ben. So if you want to level up your workday like we try to do every day, check out Bureau. You might even catch us sipping some espressos between podcast sessions.
Or tequila.
Definitely tequila.
Tell Bureau the Built World sent you, and you'll get 50% off your first month's membership. See you out there. Cheers.
Later.
If your Instagram is collecting dust, so are your leads.
That's why we started working with Sage Marketing, and I gotta say, they're dialed in, Ben.
Yeah, they'll build out your content, help you with your brand voice, and even create custom reels for you. Stuff that looks good, authentic, and performs.
Whether you just need strategy, someone to train your team, or you're ready to hand it all over, Sage has packages for whatever whatever level you're at.
And the best part, you can book a free 15-minute discovery call. No pressure, just a quick call to see where you're at and how they can help.
Hit up socialmedia.sage on Instagram or check the show notes for the link. If you're serious about growing your brand this year, this is the move. You know, all New Yorkers end up coming to Miami, right? So your next step is, since you live in New York, is probably you're going to end up in Miami. For better or worse.
For 6 months and a day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you.
You will become a resident at some point.
Oh yeah, tax resident for sure. I remember. So when I moved back to the States from, actually I hadn't even moved back yet. When I came back to the States during the pandemic, I was living in Australia at the time, and I came back. I spoke at a conference for The Real Deal in the Bahamas, and I caught up with people that I hadn't seen for a while, or I'd meet new people, and I'd be like, oh, it's like, where are you based? They're like, oh, New York and Miami. It's like one place, New York and Miami, New York and Miami.
We are the sixth borough.
Yeah.
Officially.
Seems to be.
The coolest borough, too, of New York.
Coolest borough.
Arguably, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Arguably. Who's going to argue against you on that one?
No one here. Easy money.
Yeah. So, all right. So now you're in New York.
Yes.
And what are you doing in New York?
Okay. Yeah. So sorry. So you said the whole Futurist thing. So, moved to New York. So let me take a step back. So when I wanted to move to New York, I needed to find a job, which meant that I went to every single networking event that I could find. So I went to, women in real estate wine tasting. I went to, Asian American in real estate event. I'm like, Australia's kind of close. Like, I'm sure it's okay if I come. And I eventually went to a prop tech event, and it was the first time that I'd been exposed to prop tech. I'd never heard of it. This was in 2016 or 2017, thereabouts.
You see that? We were ahead of the curve here.
Gridix is way ahead of it.
Gridix was founded in 2015.
Crushing it.
Yeah.
Prop tech.
It's
like saying AI today.
Yeah.
Prop tech.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, had you even heard the term prop tech? When were you guys first exposed to the term prop tech?
Well, we started a prop tech company, right, in 2015.
But when did you start calling it a prop tech?
I think we started calling it we were kind of like, I think we started using that in 2015.
Yeah?
Because we were kind of like prop tech and gov tech.
Yeah.
So we were throwing...
Whatever buzzword would get us more money from the VCs. Yeah.
And I think prop tech was that buzzword.
I'm like, you've been speaking to the meta prop guys.
It's like saying AI today.
Yeah.
Like AI, like $1 billion.
Yeah.
It's, there's no product, there's no vision, but we're saying AI, so,
It's all in there. In there. So when I was first exposed to it, I was like, well, why aren't people talking about it? Because it's like this, another tool in the tool belt. These incredible things that I can do for our industry. So ultimately, when I did start working in New York, I worked for Brown Harris Stevens in new development, doing new development marketing. So
Brown Harris Stevens is a residential commercial brokerage in New York City, one of the bigger ones.
Yep, correct. And some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. So, I really did get to live the dream that I always had, which was working at the heart of New York real estate, literally working on Park Avenue at 56th Street, looking down Park Avenue, and you see Grand Central Terminal and these famous buildings that, I'd only ever, read about or seen in the movies. So that was an absolute privilege, and, wonderful, wonderful people, beautiful projects. And when I started there, I said, look, I'm really interested in this prop tech stuff. Can I make it part of my role? And they're like, look, as long as you do the stuff we're paying you to do, of course. So I started in my lunch times. I'd have coffees with every single person that was in the prop tech space. I attended every single conference. I subscribed to every single newsletter, every single thing that I could. And I just started learning about the technologies.
You just immersed yourself in that.
Sunk my teeth into it.
I love it.
And as much as I could, with all of the, the startups and the vendors, I was like, look, tell me what you do. Let me advocate for you because I love what you do.
So you were talking to the Rihanna's, the envelopes of the world.
Yeah, Cindy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's envelope. Yeah. Yes.
So
Cindy McLaughlin.
Those were the early 2015, 2016, 2017 prop tech companies in New York.
Yeah. So
Fifth Wall.
Those
guys.
What was the other one too? There was another one that was doing
Fifth Wall is a VC firm very focused on prop tech back then.
Well, Metaprop is they're
But how much of it was bullshit versus actually accretive to the real estate experience. 'Cause I think a lot of it was like a VC, like land grab to get investment in their companies. Like I used to work for Sonder, for example, which was a Airbnb property manager, pretending to be a prop tech company. In a way, like everyone's trying to figure out how to be like, oh, we're prop tech to get that VC money, but at the end of the day, they're a real estate manager. So it's kind of, there's this weird...
Well, I think there's a yes or no component to it, because definitely at that time there was that kind of argument like, oh, is WeWork a prop tech? And I think Sonder's a wonderful company. They actually did... I used to be the head of the Technology and Innovation Council in New York for ULI for about 3 years. And one of the experiences that the co-chair and I, which was Draw Polleg, that we organized was for a tour of a Sonder property. And we had somebody from the real estate team and somebody from the tech team came in from San Francisco, which was wonderful to kind of, tour property and understand things. And I think it's like, okay, yeah, you can be so pure about things and say, like, what is a prop tech? Is it pure technology? Or can it be a smarter operating model for real estate? And I think it can be the latter too, because at the end of the day, where I sit, I don't really sit in the VC space as much. So some of the concerns that you're probably expressing about what was happening at the time from your firsthand experience, coming out of the, latch onto a trend or whatever that's happening in VC land. For me in the real estate space, what I'm interested in is outcomes. And is this is this a platform, or is this an idea that makes sense in the real estate world? And that's kind of it. So Sonder doesn't make sense in real estate land. Yeah, I think it really does, And I hope that they're still experiencing a lot of success post-COVID craziness.
Not really.
Have they pivoted or?
No, I think, they IPO'd via SPAC at $2.2 billion, I think in 2022. And I think today's market cap's around 20 million. Mm-hmm. They've dropped about 99% in market value.
Oh, wow.
I think the problem is with companies like that is that they were trying to jump on the VC train. Yeah. And VCs are really focused on, SaaS companies and companies that can scale without any incremental cost of scaling, like software. Yeah. Whereas something like Sonder is truly a property management company, which takes people. It does take software, but it doesn't have that scale at, no cost aspect to it like software does. Like you can sell 1 million Salesforce subscriptions and your incremental cost of sales is almost negligible. Whereas Sonder, if you're going to scale, you need property managers, you need cleaners, you need revenue managers, you need people on site. It's basically a hotel company pretending to be a prop tech company. And I think early on they were kind of blending both worlds in the fact that they were professionally managing these Airbnb style accommodations where they were doing, we have kitchens, we have, ensuite bathrooms, we have apartments you can rent and providing the service for you, but claiming that it's this very scalable business, I think kind of blends the two worlds in a way that's not totally honest in a way. It's like we really are a property management company, and to scale we need to pay people, we need to do these things, and just by hiring engineers to build property management systems that we could buy better, it's this weird like kind of gray area, but it's an interesting use case for sure for these prop tech companies, because there's been a lot of them that have been trying to do stuff like that.
Well, do you think there's maybe a bit of a tension between, on the one hand, you have VC land, which is tech world, which is very much about those metrics that you kind of mentioned and this mold of SaaS that you've got to fit into, versus you've got property management land, which is very much a certain operating model, which is, well, you have to have the receptionist, you have to have this person, you have to have this person, blah, blah, blah. So you've kind of got, I hate to use the term, but almost like the worst of both worlds, bringing their bias and this is the way we do things coming in, versus, perhaps that's like version 1.0, and perhaps now we can have version 2.0 in this world of, I know you hate the word AI, but, in this kind of smarter world that we're in, that maybe you can actually start to remove some of those, slower setup elements. Maybe you can, not have to have that receptionist. There's a virtual doorman that you're really paying like 50 cents per door or whatever.
I think there's definitely
more,
I think there's definitely efficiencies to be had. Like we were here, I was telling Felipe, we were here at the Hyatt, and there was a line of probably 30 people to check in at the front desk, and that drives me crazy because I actually invested in a hotel company in Toronto. We have a brand called The Annex where you'll never see a line to check in because you can check in on your phone.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy to me that you have to wait in a line of 30 people to check into your room.
So you're paying $300 a night.
Dude, you could just check in on your phone. Like, let me go to my room. Like, why am I sitting in this 30-person line to check in? Like, this is crazy. So there, yes, absolutely. But I think Sonder was kind of a bit reaching in the fact that they were hiring engineers to build property management system solutions that, you know, the Muse of the world or... there's a lot of property management software companies that build software that solves these problems really well. And Sonder was kind of like using that as a justification for the VC investment to get the multiple on their investment to try to create this story. And I don't blame Sonder. I think they had a good use case, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the consumer, and consumer is going to pick value. What do they can get? What's the cheapest option in the market that gives them the biggest bang for their buck? So I think it's an interesting angle for sure. But to your point, yes, there is some in between land where that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and probably motivations. That if the motivation is trying to get to that $2.2 billion valuation, or is it to have a sustainable company that has more efficient operations and a better outcome for the customer?
Totally.
So
is that where did your futurist kind of world take off? Like where did that happen?
So the futurist world for me basically took off. So started with prop tech, learning about that, and because I was quite immersed in the New York prop tech community, I started being invited to speak at events. First one being at Recotech in Helsinki in 2019. And then in Kazakhstan, which was, quite an experience. And then
I bet.
Kazakhstan,
yeah.
I just think of Borat.
Yeah.
It's a pretty amazing place. It's also like a corner of the world that's worth visiting.
Yeah.
Wow. It's pretty astounding. And then in New York, and I was very fortunate to be invited to speak at these events and share, my passion and the things that I care about. And the futurist angle basically came through with a little bit of what we'd call marketing magic. And I realized that when I was speaking at events, I wasn't just talking about prop tech anymore. I was talking about future trends and technologies that are impacting the way that we live. And it's generational changes, it's technology changes, it's mindset changes, all these kind of things that really talk about, what is our future going to be like and how can we start preparing for it today?
Okay, and how do we do that?
How do we do that? Well, you've got to read a lot of books and.
But you started a company based on this, no? Like
Yeah. So I do some advisory work. I sit on a number of boards. I also work with leadership teams to understand the types of things that they can be doing. I say kind of in three dimensions: on a personal level, team level, and an organizational level, to be future ready. And a lot of it is really about I don't want to use the word like change management, but I'm really struggling to find another word for change management, but that is kind of what it is.
Why don't you like that word, change management?
Because it's like so uninspiring.
Yeah. A bit clinical.
It's a bit clinical and dry when really it's about a reprioritization of where you're spending your time, and not just your actual time, but where are your thoughts? Like, are you thinking about what do I need to do today? Like, how am I problem solving for today? Or do you go, actually, I've got a vision of where I want to be and where I want to go, and now I've just got to start connecting the dots of how to get there.
It's kind of like any real estate developer, right? Like when you're a real estate developer, you're developing 3 years in the future, always. Like rent comps, everything else is like you're looking 3-4 years out. So you're kind of maybe that, but a little bit more, kind of like what's going to happen.
But that's exactly it. That's 1,000% it. And that's what we do in real estate. Because in development, you're having to think, okay, if you're acquiring a site, you have to do all your financials to understand that by the time you've actually finished building it, who's going to move in, how are you going to lease it out? And then you've got to think, well, what about in 5 years' time or 10 years' time or 20 years' time? depending on if you're holding on to it, like what's actually going to be these changes. So it's just part of our DNA in our industry to think about the future. But sometimes we're very set in just going, okay, well, what about today? Let's apply the same formulas we've always done, rather than going, you know what, 2030, 2040, probably going to look a little bit different to today. Let's understand what 2030, 2040 looks like and actually prepare for that, instead of doing things by the 1995 Windows Excel spreadsheet version that we've been doing for the past couple decades.
This episode is brought to you by Built World Advisors. Yeah, that's us. We're not your typical commercial brokerage. We combine deep market knowledge with a media platform that actually connects to people doing deals: the developers, brokers, architects, and attorneys.
And let's not forget the investors, Ben. From warehouses in East Hialeah to off-market gems in Allapattah, we help you find value where others aren't looking. If you're tired of waiting for opportunities to land in your inbox, let's talk.
Built World Advisors, real estate for the people who get shit done. You can check us out at builtworldadvisors.com.
So talking about 2030, 2040, I want to start getting like deep into like the futurist stuff. Like
Okay.
I think this is what we're here
Yeah, what
for.
does that look like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You clearly have traveled, seen a lot of different cities. We've been building cities as humans for well over 2,000-3,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there's a tried and true model of walkability, mixed uses. How do you? And the U.S. is very different in the way we've developed our cities, right? It's very autocentric. You go to India, you go to Australia, it's less so. London especially, there's public transit. How do you see development happening here in the United States in particular in the next 20, 30 years? I'm going to throw a lot of questions at you. Is electric vehicles the answer? I mean, to me, it seems like we're just replacing the combustible engine with an electrical vehicle. It's not really removing cars from the streets. Should we be developing cities more as this mixed-use density sort of mantra where we're less reliant on vehicles and maybe electric scooters, electric bicycles, public transit? Is that where you see the future going, or are we going to continue this kind of suburban sprawl that the United States has been doing for the last 60, 70 years?
Oh, the big questions, all rolled into things. All right, I'm going to try to answer your question by throwing a few kind of concepts in. And starting by the international angle, like different cities take different shapes. And can't say that there's like one ideal, but there is kind of something that's considered to be an ideal, which is like a European city, and cities like Barcelona, which are walkable and mixed use. And one of the principles around that is thinking about an optimal building height being 6 stories high. And around that, it gives you a level of density, but it also gives you, it's not super high. So you still get this kind of neighborhoody feel. So when you are in Barcelona, or I was in Sweden last month, Stockholm is so freaking gorgeous, especially in the summer. And these like Nordic countries, I love Finland, and that's a beautiful scale to work at. Referencing back to London, like my sister lives in London. I'm going to be there again next month. Like London works in these kind of rings. You've got the urban centre, and then it kind of goes out with transportation. I want to say maybe it was 15 years ago that they introduced congestion pricing. And when you compare like where London was versus to where it is today in terms of the walkability, downtown, it's unbelievable. So they actually went from being this, quite literally this like chaotic, stinky city to making an effort to like clean up the buildings, clean up the air, make it walkable. So, and an ancient city with so many problems, so much history, so much heritage, etc. So it can be done. Okay. Now you come to American cities, and for me, I live in New York, which is the craziest city on earth.
And it's probably one of the most ancient cities in North America.
Yeah, and it's got this combination of decrepit, I'm talking about the subway here, and the best of the best.
By the way, where in New York do you live?
I'm on the Upper East Side in Manhattan,
Okay.
you know, so right in the heart of it. And because for me, for my work, I get to travel around the country and see all these beautiful places around the US. And, we're talking before, being in, Charleston, Savannah, Phoenix, Salt Lake City, Des Moines, Minneapolis.
Those last two are horrible. Jesus. Des Moines, don't even mention.
Well, but I think Des Moines is very important to mention because the thing is that just because something works in New York doesn't mean it's going to work in Des Moines. And this is something that I realized when I first visited there. And I was coming back from there, going from the airport to the downtown. I'm like, where are all the people? And I see all these sky bridges. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I kind of understand. I'm like, where's the ground floor retail, etc. It's a different way of living.
They're all at Applebee's.
Pardon, Applebee's?
Yeah.
No one invited me. I don't know. Anyway, but I think the thing is that there's not like one size fits all, because each city is, you've got two different scenarios. You both have brownfield, you have existing cities, or you can say greenfield, new cities that you might want to be building if you're, starting from scratch. But it's not always going to be the same approach works for everyone. But having said that, I do have a bias because, again, I chose to live in New York. I chose to live in a city where I don't own a car, where I pay way too much to live there. I'm fine having a smaller apartment to be able to have that kind of vibrancy. I chose that lifestyle. Even when I was back in Australia, I sold my car. I didn't use it. I preferred to walk. I would prefer to get the train than to drive. I just don't enjoy that. But that's a choice. So I would say that there's probably some principles that any city needs when it comes to urban planning, which is, vibrant transportation. I caught the Bright Line before when I was in Florida from Palm Beach down to Miami. I thought that, have you guys been on the train?
Oh, yeah.
It's awesome, yeah.
It's
great.
amazing.
It's a great experience, yeah.
It's amazing. I'd love to see more of that.
It feels like
It's
you're in Europe.
It's privately owned, though.
Yeah.
And it's probably losing a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
We don't really know, but I feel like it's losing a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a great experience, absolutely.
Super convenient,
Yeah.
and to be able to have that, that level of connectivity, something that's like clean, convenient, great service, everything. I think that kind of, having the option of great transportation, being able to, because when you have great transportation, then people don't necessarily have to be in their private cars. And we were talking about Miami before, and with the traffic problems, there's not great public transportation.
Yeah.
So, you don't want to get on a bus there. Whereas, as I said, I was just in Sweden, and I was also in Denmark, in Copenhagen, and in Oslo end of last year. And their public transport is phenomenal.
It's a different experience. It's clean, it's efficient, it's timely. They're running, 10 minutes between every bus, every subway. When you're going to get someplace.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like when it's a wonderful experience, you don't need to have a car.
Yeah.
So I think that's something.
But you
as a
think
starting point.
that's you think that's what's going to happen going forward? You're optimistic that more cities are going to be taking this this attitude towards public transit, that it's needed rather than this autocentric sort of mindset?
Well, I think let's change the terminology a little bit, and we can talk about shared transportation versus private transportation. And theoretically, so you go from, do I get in my car, which can seat 5 people, but it's just me, and commute to work every day? Or can I get in an autonomous shuttle that picks me up right outside my front door and takes me in, and it costs me $2.50?
And you're traveling with other people in there, in those autonomous shuttles.
Well, that's what they used to have in New York City. I don't know if they did in Miami with Via. Did you have Via before the pandemic?
I don't think so.
It was kind of like Uber rideshare, but it would be a shuttle and it would go up and down the avenues. I think it was like $2 door to door. So almost like instead of getting the bus, you get a Via.
And you think is this going to become more autonomous, I imagine, too?
Yeah, so with autonomous vehicles, or autonomous shuttles, so I'll take a step back. So one of the Like in terms of emerging transport, one of the technologies that I think is phenomenal and has great potential are autonomous shuttles. And one of the nicknames that they have is a trackless tram. And the principle is, say if you need to go from, from South Beach to Coral Gables, you can put a train in. How much is that going to cost?
Yeah, you gotta lay the rail down there.
Yeah,
it's
going to take 50 years. It's going to blow out the budget. It's going to displace people. It's going to make a horrible environment around the train tracks. It's going to ruin things. But if you have a autonomous shuttle, what you can do instead is, instead of like putting a rail line through, you go, okay, let's program the shuttle, the route it needs to go and where it needs to stop. Same as if it's stopping at train stations, and it does that route all the time.
But that would have to be a dedicated lane to make it more efficient, because
eventually almost like a bus lane,
Yeah.
But it can go. I mean, autonomous cars can go on the regular road at the moment. So the theory really is, instead of needing to put in a train line, you can put in autonomous shuttles. And the thing is that when you say there's a big concert in South Beach, and you know that you need to get more people to there and from there, you can increase the capacity. Or if there's a show at a stadium, you can increase the capacity by putting more vehicles on the road. Or if there's a road that's shut down, you can reroute it. So instead of investing in fixed infrastructure, you've invested in flexible infrastructure. So, and we're just talking autonomous cars here, but on a shared, a fixed route and a shared vehicle. So I think something like that has great potential. So, I was in, I don't know if anyone would agree with me here, but I spoke at a ULI event in Charleston a few months ago, which was absolutely wonderful. And if we just use that as an example, and I'm no Charleston expert, except that I absolutely adore the place. But if, say, in theory, you kind of put almost like a fence around the city.
Shout out to Charleston. What a cool city. We love it.
It's on the list for sure.
Absolutely wonderful. So if in theory you say you put like a little fence around the city of Charleston, almost like they did with the congestion pricing in London, say no private cars are coming inside, but if you want to get from A to B, you hop on an autonomous shuttle, and it will take you from A to B within the confines of the city of Charleston, because now we've cleaned up the streets. There's pretty much no private cars. It's a great experience.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting in traffic or private vehicle use, and then private vehicles are parked on the side of the road day in and day out, which actually disturbs the experience of like sitting outside, because one person who parked the car that one time for all day, like it's not a great experience for city life. So, but as I said, I'm biased because I'm not a car owner, and I don't have kids, so it's a lot easier for me to get around without having to think about like carrying sports equipment around on shared transportation. So,
well, at least you're cognizant of that, right? Like you understand that you're a single person. Like when you're a parent with kids, like there's a whole other issues that you have with transportation, right? Like, and most people don't have that self-awareness when they're making these sort of suggestions.
Well, I think this is the thing, and there's a field called digital master planning. So when I was back in Australia, I was working for QIC as the head of technology strategy. And one of the exercises we did was in digital master planning, which is basically designing the digital experience in similar ways you might design the landscape or the interiors, you design the digital experience. And one of the first steps that you do there is you pick your personas, and then you do journey mapping. So my journey as just me is going along, certain things in a day. A family would have a different journey map. Somebody that's elderly or somebody that's mobility impaired, they have different needs. So you need to start mapping out, like, what is that experience for different user types, and how can you actually solve for all of them? Because it's not going to be, my experience versus somebody that's mobility impaired. We need different things. We're out at different times. And again, geographically, different cities, they're laid out in different ways. What works in New York, what works in Miami isn't necessarily going to work in Phoenix or, in Naples. Like, it's not like a one size fits all. It's got to be a journey of discovery of what makes sense in that context with these new tools and technologies that serve us.
So just going off on that, my cousin lives in Zurich.
Oh, yeah?
And I mean, it's like the most perfect place in the world when it comes to public transit.
The trains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to go to a ski resort, you book a train to, wherever it is. It's St. Moritz or whatever it is. They actually come and pick up your skis at your house so that you don't have to carry them, and they will deliver them to the resort, knowing that you're going to take the train to that particular resort. So
nice.
They're mapping that user experience, right? Like they're really thinking about, okay, let me really step into the shoes of the user and how they're going to use a public transit and what are their needs.
And also understanding what is the barrier to someone not using public transport, and probably 99.9% with perfect accuracy of survey respondents said, I am using my car, not public transport, because I'm carrying my skis. And they said, well, let's solve that with the concierge service.
Exactly.
Come grab my snowboard and take me to Chamonix.
And how about, just in Florida, like in Miami, we're just seeing a ton of people using electric bicycles, electric scooters. It seems like there is a big opportunity there. Government is completely lacking in providing the safe infrastructure for people to use those modes of transportation. What are your thoughts about those two modalities, and how do we get government to start designing infrastructure to keep other modalities safe? Because today it just seems like we're here in the United States, we're only concerned about vehicles.
I mean, look, it's tricky, and I don't really know the rules of the road in Florida. And
There are none. Zero.
Yeah, and then
It's a free for all.
I mean, then it becomes a safety concern. But I mean, there is a reality when there's gridlock traffic, and it's easier to kind of maneuver through on a scooter or on a bike lanes.
And that's what's happening, right?
Yeah. So I mean, one would hope, generally speaking, that there's some planning to understand that.
Not in Miami.
Get some people from the DOT.
I've seen people on 95 on the scooters,
Yeah.
speed wobbles,
Yeah.
And if you're not familiar with Only in Dade on Instagram, you should watch that because you see all the crazy shit in Miami.
Yeah, that's rival subway creatures. Have
Exactly.
You seen?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. What trends are you seeing today that you believe will fundamentally change and reshape real estate in the next 5 to 10 years? Is it kind of, we were talking about the drones? Is it, something similar? What are you seeing that's going to reshape the way that people approach real estate development?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's every single job function is going to be touched in different ways. Every single asset class is going to be touched in different ways. I mean, AI tools are going to change the way that we do our jobs. Absolutely, it's already happening. Look, I'd love to say that it's going to be passenger drones that are going to change things in the next 5 years, but it's going to be a slow rollout. But as they do start coming through, there's going to be more multimodal transportation hubs, which obviously affects the, how cities thrive and operate and where things are located. But our industry's slow to adapt. So I don't know that we're going to suddenly see this one thing that's going to change everything, unless that one thing is rising insurance prices, and we need to make things, buildings more resilient, or tick boxes so that our insurance premiums go down. That might be the one thing, which is so damn boring. But I don't know that there's, outside of AI disrupting our jobs, I don't know that there's necessarily one thing that's going to change everything. But I think there's general trends that we want to be paying attention to that are gradually going to keep creeping into the way that we do everything.
Which general trends do you think are the most likely to succeed?
I mean, trends happen in a few different dimensions. I think I wouldn't say it's necessarily a success metric, but it's probably a disruption metric, you could say.
Right, perfect.
I think a disruption metric would really be around generational change. And as we start entering a time where Gen Xers are starting to retire as we get to 2030, as we get to 2030, millennials and Gen Z will be 75% of the workforce and moving more into having more influence in the way that companies operate, the way that we design and operate places, and bringing in more of a comfort with emerging technologies and an expectation to be more tech savvy, because that's what these generations have grown up with. There's going to be this, changing of the guard in a sense. So leadership will have a familiarity and a desire to embrace more tech in a nutshell. And as we start getting to 2030 also, Gen Alpha, they're going to start entering the workforce and they're going to start earning money. They're going to start looking for jobs. They're going to start looking for homes. They're going to start spending. So there's going to become this emerging consumer group. And again, they love technology and they understand things like, spending all of your time on Roblox and Minecraft and all these different worlds and this different experience of the world. So I think the biggest difference we're going to see, in addition to changing technology, is a changing or an embracing of, and a willingness of wanting to, adopt more emerging technologies into everything that we do. Whether it's the job description itself, all the way that buildings are, managed, owned, operated, etc. If somebody's like grown up investing in crypto when they were 15, by the time they're 25, if they're looking at using crypto on a deal, they're like, well, yeah, I've been doing this for the past decade. I get it. They don't need to have that education on what is it, does it make sense for us, what are the risks. They get it. They've had 10 years experience in understanding this kind of thing. It's not new and novel to them. So I think it's that generational element.
How about transportation? Are you we talked about the drones at the bar? Do you think is that a real possibility where we have these passenger drones that are moving people around? I mean, thinking about it, 100 years ago, the Empire State Building was built to have blimps. What do they call them then?
Blimps?
Yeah.
Blimps, but there was another word. Zeppelins.
Yeah.
Zeppelins anchored at the pinnacle of the Empire State Building. That was the future back then. Was that people are going to be moved around by blimps, and that was going to be the, futurist version in the 20s of what this was. What do you see today as the future? You're a practicing futurist. Do you see passenger drones as being the new version of that, or in practicality is that maybe not so much making sense? Maybe it's more full self-driving Teslas pulling into buildings that we need to design for, or what's kind of the peek behind the curtain of the future of what you see?
Both of these technologies are already here, and it's just about how they're being rolled out. So, I'm going to use terms a little bit interchangeably. There's passenger drones. There's sometimes they fall in the category of AAM, Advanced Air Mobility. Sometimes they're called eVTOLs, which are electric vertical takeoff and landing. Basically flying cars or flying taxis, and that's the first iteration. So there's test flights happening all across the US. There's, as I said, I was in Salt Lake City. That's part of, with the Olympics coming up, they're super advanced in looking at how they're going to be rolling out flying taxis, to the extent that you can look it up. It's absolutely astounding. You see these videos of these models that show these highways in the sky, and that is almost like a different altitude. So you might be, for example, going north at the highest altitude, one level down, you go south at that other altitude, and then in between there's like a crossover lane, almost like how we have, lanes on a highway. Yeah. It's all been designed in the skies already, and then below that
so
you might have deliveries.
You think our transportation is going to move up?
Yes. So
and off the street. So we're going to start reclaiming our streets, use that more for public use, and then the movement of people is going to be more up in the atmosphere.
What's being designed at the moment are more point solutions, so like end-to-end. So some of the earliest iterations are looking at, airport to city. So they've already done, as I said, they've done a lot of test flights all around the country, including Dallas-Fort Worth Airport is another example. They've been, kind of like running. They recently did like a test flight using helicopters, kind of running around these these highways that they're planning to see how's this all going to work. So instead of, for example, getting a Uber, car, taxi, or a train from the airport into the CBD, you'll just catch this, this flying taxi. Or if you need to get to, the Hamptons, or if you need to get to a concert or whatever, you just go, end to end, and the costs will eventually start falling.
Wow.
So the technology is super advanced, and now I'm going to geek out like a loser. I had the great honor when I was in Salt Lake City. I was introduced to this gentleman who's actually working on the strategy for Salt Lake City around their advanced air mobility. And the stuff that he told me was absolutely astounding. And just some examples, like with the aircraft themselves, he said there's some you can like pick it up with one hand. It's that light. And have 16 parts. That's it. This is a flying taxi. 16 parts. And what they're actually doing is, because there's countries like, places like Dubai, for example, that are a bit more, they're a bit further along with, flying these vehicles. What they're able to do is use the data from places like Dubai to train the aircraft here, and then the aircraft here just need to learn about the local conditions. So they're actually using the training data from other environments to actually speed up the adoption of the technology here.
Wow.
So it's already here. It's already happening. There's a lot of working groups in different states and across the country, etc. So there's huge plans. But I feel like as an industry, we don't talk about it in real estate. Like we don't talk about it enough. And yes, it's like saying there's a new train line coming to your city. What do you think the impact's going to be? It's like we're almost like a bit blind to it.
Well, it's a bit of balancing both, right? We have to balance what exists today with what will likely exist in the future, and how likely is that future? I guess that's the question. How likely is that future? How likely is it that we're going to have these automated air taxis ferrying people about, and what does that timeline look like?
I mean, the technology exists. When it's being fully adopted is up to each city, but places around the country are already testing it out with, the aim of having them being implemented. Some of the timelines are 2026, 2027, 2030, like 2030. Like, it's here. It's not this far fantasy, but to say at the same time, in terms of planning for it, now I remember in Australia there was this one shopping centre that I designed, and outside the front we had this like huge, this kind of huge plaza. And I was like, why don't we plant some trees or something? Like, I guess this like huge empty space, it could have something so much nicer. But the thing is that we had to keep the space vacant for a potential future tram line that might come. And we'd been waiting 30 years for this tram to come. And ultimately, when they did build the tram line, it didn't even cross through the site. But that's part of what we do in development anyway. We actually make provisions for future transportation and future roads, future infrastructure, etc., with the understanding that the future development plans in the area intend to include certain, train stops or whatever it might be. So it's part of what we do anyway. But I think it affects the value of a site if you know that you're going to have a landing port for flying taxis versus if you don't. But you've got to have a level of awareness and lobbying to try to get it, I suppose.
So drones are in. Do you think trains are out in the future or not really? You think there's still a place for trains?
I like trains. I think they're very efficient and effective when they work well, rather than an over-reliance on airports.
Okay.
Yeah, what's your view?
I love trains. I love the choo-choo.
Choo-choo?
I mean, dude, traveling in Europe via train is a whole nother experience.
Yeah.
Like, you roll on 5 minutes before the train's to leave.
Yeah.
With your pan de raisin and your cappuccino, and you pop in, no security, you're out. Like, it's a great experience.
Let's talk about construction a little bit, and robotics. I was listening to All In podcast. Do you listen to All In at all?
I think I did at some point, but I don't know that I've listened recently.
It's okay. I mean,
That's a glowing recommendation.
I was more of a fan of them. I was more of a fan of them about 6 months ago, but they were talking about robotics and how robotics can really start helping in construction. Mm-hmm. Do you see that as a possibility? Because one of the biggest costs for construction is labor. Mm-hmm. And it's probably more than actual materials, I think.
For sure.
And so if you can eliminate labor and start building with robotics, is that something that you see happening soon? And how soon would that happen? And then in terms of, in robotics, I think would really be more on site. There's also been talk about, designing modularly. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
Modularly?
Yeah.
Is that proper English?
Modularly.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then bringing, we'll accept that, and then bringing that on site.
Mm-hmm.
Like 3D printing or?
Yeah, even
prefab.
Yeah, prefab, right? Yeah. And we've actually seen some new constructions where it's almost like building Lego blocks. It's like cinder blocks out of plastic. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing in the construction industry? Because it seems like we are still building very much. There hasn't been very much innovation in construction in the last 50, 60 years. Probably more than that, actually. Where do you see construction going, and how do we reduce the cost of construction? Because that really is, I think, key to bringing affordability to living standards in cities.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. And I think there's that whole camp of off-site construction, modular, prefabrication, etc., which I think we don't explore enough as an industry and has huge opportunities. But I'm going to park that. So when it comes to construction is messy. It's really messy. And I think sometimes there are over-ambitious construction technology companies that say, oh, we're going to automate everything. I'm like, you have never actually sat overlooking a construction site, because it is freaking messy. But to your point, there's a skill shortage, there's a labor shortage. So it's like, okay, well, and there hasn't been much innovation. What I'm seeing more of in construction technology, and look, I'm not going to cover every single thing, but I'll just kind of mention a few things that come to mind, is tools that help people do their job quicker and more effectively. And I don't think that what we're going to end up with is no human beings on the construction site, but what I do think is that the tools that they use to do their jobs, or the machinery that they use to do their job, is going to be quite different. And I'll give you
so less people probably on the construction site,
or a more efficient use of people. And so I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Can I backtrack? This is going to be a bit of a backtrack.
You can absolutely backtrack.
Okay.
We'll cut you some slack here.
All right, thank you. Since I'm a guest, I'm not a Floridian. You're like, oh, these non-Floridians, they ramble. Okay, so I'm going to backtrack. And I'm obviously in Florida at the moment to give a keynote on Tuesday about the future, and this is all in my keynote and something I love talking about. So there's a few stats that really stick out to me about construction in the US. One is that 91% of construction projects go over budget and program, or both. So we can't even predict what things are going to cost or how long it's going to take. There's always cost overrun and there's always delays. Even though
91%.
91%, like almost all of them, okay? Which is ridiculous, because we've got smart people, we've got great technology, we've done a lot of construction projects. So why are we so bad at predicting? So construction's messy.
Wishful
it's hard
thinking,
to predict.
right?
I think that's an element. Let's be honest. I think that's an element.
We're going to get this under budget.
Yeah, but it's wishful thinking, but we all know the reality.
Yeah.
Like, it's always going to cost twice as much and take twice as long.
Yeah.
That's what everyone says.
Exactly, but you never actually put it in your business case to begin with, or you'll never get it signed off.
Right.
So there's also that human element.
Right.
But the other thing is inefficiency. So in the US, it is a third of a a third of the day of labor on site. A third of the day, I think it's 36% of the time of a person on site is spent not working.
Holy shit.
In Sweden, because as it does in Sweden, it's 54%. And at dinner, I sat next to somebody who's created a construction technology company or technology-enabled construction company. And so they're using technology to streamline and optimize their construction workflows when it comes to laborers. So he gave me this example because he goes, you said in Sweden, it's, we only have 54% of the time in Sweden, people on site aren't working. He goes, we actually ran an experiment in my office. And he said, we have plumbers working for us directly. And they're all very good people. And they're all very trustworthy. They do a good job, etc. So we said, look, can we kind of monitor what you do in a typical day, typical week, etc. So they kind of tagged them up to get a sense of what do they do in a day, how do they spend their time. And they found that for their plumbers, who are good people, honest people, do a good job, in an 8-hour day, they only spent 2 hours actually working. 2 hours working in an 8-hour day. The rest of the time, they're shopping around for materials or having to grab stuff from the truck or find parking or set up, etc. Only 2 hours in the day. It's completely inefficient. So what construction technology can do is a few things. Is you can start finding efficiencies. So if you take that example, the plumber, it's like, okay, well, what's happening for the other 6 hours of the day? Can't you, at the start of the day, if you know they're going to a job site, can't you actually load up their kit that it has all the tools that they need, or that it has certain instructions, or is it that they're going through traffic? Like, what's actually the problem? Let's start getting data to actually give us a better result. So that's kind of one bucket. The other bucket, as I said, is around machinery. Like, what kind of machinery can people on site use? And I've got some examples in my keynote tomorrow. But one example is I saw this great kind of robot that was tiling a floor with large format tiles, almost like a printer would just go beep, 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 and just put these big tiles on the floor and just move along, move along, move along. So super quick at laying tiles in a repetitive way that things are always even, because again, they can actually use layers, the levels, etc. It's like printing, the tiles onto the floor. And to get a skilled tiler to be able to do that with these large format tiles that a single person can't lift up is very difficult. Or there's robot bricklayers using these large concrete cinder blocks. There's an Australian company that's using them, and when I was reading up about it, they were saying in Australia, bricklayers are charging $900 a day because there's such a skill shortage. Whereas this robot, it can kind of stick out its arm, and then once it's set up inside, it can just go bam, 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 bam. Let's put in these blocks. So it's not going to do all the work. It's not going to do the detailed work. It's not going to be the
You're still going to need a human to put that robot in there, to lay it out.
1,000%. And to come in after the robot, it might do 90% of the wall, but then for the final touch-ups, etc., you're going to have to get... So I think for different problems, you can get a different robot coming in to do different things. But the challenge is going to be, well, how many tiling robots are out there, and are you going to have access to that tiling robot when you need it in your schedule, or there are only 5 in the country and you're going to have to wait around? So it becomes kind of a resource. Or if you're that tiler and you actually have access to this robot, I think that's what it's going to be. If you are the tiler that has access to this robot that installs an entire floor of a shopping center in 2 days, you're going to be in high demand and do a perfect job every time. You're going to be in higher demand to be able to do it quickly, efficiently, low cost, perfect quality. That's going to be amazing. So I think it's going to be the contractors that are going to start using the technology, and that's going to become their secret sauce. They're not going to lose their jobs. Their jobs are going to change, that they can actually have a better quality outcome because they understand what quality looks like. But it doesn't necessarily need to be them doing difficult labor. It's going to be them operating the machine to perfection and then coming in and finishing things off.
Interesting.
That's my 2 cents worth.
So as CEO of Real Estate of the Future is your current company, correct? Mm-hmm. Is there one message that you would like to get across to the development industry, to the real estate industry? What would be your encapsulated elevator pitch to the real estate development industry?
I mean, if there's a summation of everything, it's that the world is changing. There's new and emerging technologies customer expectations, investor expectations are changing. Your employees' expectations are changing. And that we need to act today because the world's changing around us. And we can't, if we just stand still, then we're just going to keep falling behind. So it's exciting stuff. I enjoy leaning into the technology. So.
And is there one trend or use case that you're seeing today that's going to fundamentally change everything? Or is it a confluence of events? Or like, what would you speak to in that regard?
I mean, people hate hearing about AI because it's so...
cliche.
So cliche, but there's truth in the cliche. I was talking to you guys about earlier with my nerdiness that I've been leaning into AI and learning how to basically put myself out of a job. So I'm automating my own workflow using ChatGPT, showing me how to code and automate tools, etc. It is so much fun to do. And when you start using these AI tools, and you can use ChatGPT to help you and kind of guide you and tell you what to do. You can ask it a million dumb questions and it'll keep giving you the answer. That's the nice thing about it. It's very patient. When you start actually using these like new systems and new tools, then you actually kind of like dive deep into it, then you understand the capability. And for us in real estate development, the projects that we work on are so complex that for us to be able to understand technology, it's a natural fit. So I don't think anyone in real estate should be concerned about technology coming in and that they won't be able to understand it or use it. It's very, it's a direct parallel to our skill set and part of our DNA. So
do you think AI is the most implementable new change in the real estate development landscape, or is there another technology that we should be designing for?
I mean, you can put it into the bucket of AI. I do think attached to AI, it's really for where we are as an industry. A lot of it is really about automation and just really simplifying our workflow. But there's there's a great catchphrase which is eliminate, automate, or delegate. And I think in our industry, there's so much complexity, and in our daily lives, there's so much complexity and clutter. The first step is really figuring out how can you clean up your schedule, how can you clean up your day, how can you clean up your workflows, can you get rid of the complexity and stuff that you don't necessarily need to be doing by firstly trying to eliminate, simplify, shorten things, and then seeing how you can bring tech in to solve some of those problems. Because I'll be honest with you, if you want to suddenly become like an AI expert or change the way that you're doing things or lean into future technologies, it's really hard to do if you don't have the time to do it. And I have the luxury to be able to learn about this stuff because I'm not having to spend, a third of my day sitting in meetings or going into the kitchen to celebrate somebody's birthday and sing happy birthday, it's like, instead I can go, instead a third of my day I'm going to sit there like learning Zapier and OpenAI and whatever because I've got that time because I created that time. So
well, plus I feel like real estate is a very hesitant industry to adapt. I mean, we saw it firsthand with Gridix, developers have the spreadsheets. They don't need some fancy software solution to figure out comps and to figure out, zoning analysis. So it's interesting to hear from you firsthand what's worth focusing on. Because I think that's a hard thing to figure out as a developer. Like, what is worth focusing on? What is actually going to come down the pike? What's going to get implemented? What are people actually going to use? Are these flying drone things actually going to happen? Or is that another 20 years down the road? I don't have to worry about that for another 20 years. Like, trying to pinpoint that, it's a difficult thing right now.
Yeah, and I think there's different dimensions that you can think about it. So in technology strategy, you can kind of put things into three buckets if you want to think about it. You can talk about the customer, you can talk about your internal operations, and you can talk about the product. So the product, let's work backwards. The product is our property developments. So here it's that thought exercise of, what is going to be the impact of autonomous cars or advanced air mobility or drone deliveries, etc. Go through every emerging technology and actually do a discovery, do some research, actually understand what's happening in your market, what is the impact going to be. Bring in outside experts to help you with this exercise. Like, understand what it might be and if there's opportunities there. That's on the product side, same as you might be looking at future development plans or a future train line, etc. Looking at future technology should be part of this this discovery and future planning. So that's product. Customer expectations, as we said. There's changes. Chat to your kids, understand, or grandkids, or nieces, nephews, etc. Understand the way that they see the world. And they interact with the world, because it will be quite insightful for where our world is going. And then the third piece is, operations. What are the tools that we're using today to do our jobs? And I think this is one of the easiest places to start. I kind of say, if you look at the technology that you're using on a daily basis, whether it's Excel or the Windows suite, or maybe you're using the Autodesk suite or whatever it is, like, go in and take a deep dive and see what new features there are, because you're paying for this stuff already. You're already using it. Like, find out what else it can do, because the technology is becoming more powerful in the background. So it's kind of like a lot of us have smart TVs and all we do is turn it on, turn it off, change the channel, change the volume, but it has a million other features. That's like a lot of the technology that we're using in our offices at the moment. There's so many more features that you can be using, but we're not using it. So it can actually make the technology a lot more exciting and do a lot more. So that's probably a good place to start. Like, yeah.
Quick question. How long have you... So which AI application do you use the most? ChatGPT?
Yeah.
Yeah. How long have you been using it?
I've been using it for a long time.
How long is a long time?
It came out, when was it? It was November 22? Was that when it came out? 23?
Sounds right.
Yeah.
I think I've only been using it for about a year and a half.
So she's got you beat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it was 22 or 23.
So I probably started in 24.
Yeah.
Early 24. I'm a Gen Xer, so I'm a little slower.
What are you using it for?
So, yeah, I'd love to have a broader conversation about this. I mean, we use it mostly for, drafting emails, social media stuff. I use it as my personal shrink as well.
Amazing, isn't it?
It is. Like, I've asked, what are my blind spots? What am I good at? What should I be doing better? And the more you use it, I think, the history that it has, it really provides some sort of objective feedback. Yeah. So I would recommend anyone using that as well. Like, how should we be using the podcast? What are really more business related, but I also use it personally. Like, how are you using it though?
Yeah, so I started in probably a similar way. So when I started, I used it a lot for, I wouldn't say direct copywriting, but definitely correcting my grammar, Americanizing my English.
Which is the proper English, by the way. It's a more evolved, it started in England and then went to Australia, and now the U.S. is the most evolved English of all. Yeah, just so we're clear.
That's it. What was that? That dictionary? There's like the Urban Dictionary is like the highest form.
Yeah. That's gold right there.
That's right.
No cap.
No cap.
Oh my god. I don't know what you mean. So I started with correcting my language, because I was kind of reluctant to put stuff on social media unless it was correct. Then the next step I kind of took was going, okay, well, I wanted to force myself to use it more. So instead of going on to Google for a search, I started going on to ChatGPT and using it more. Where I am at the moment is, I agree with you 100%, and that's actually the top use case at the moment. I think maybe like the top 4 out of 5 use cases are actually very human use cases. People using it for, for like counseling and motivation and these types of things, which is not what you'd think you'd be using a machine for. But I think for us people, I also use it for that, especially when I'm a little bit confused about this. Did I say something wrong, or how could I have handled it a bit better, or can you help me reword this, because I don't want to come off as harsh, it's very encouraging. It
Yeah.
always kind of like lifts you up, and it's very consistent and takes the emotion out. So it can be, I hate to say a friend in that way, but I think for a lot of people it feels like a friend in that way, because, you know, us humans, we have these crazy anxious minds, and then there's this thing that's available that you can ask, like, analyze this fight that I had with someone 1,000,000 times, and it'll be there for you, and you can kind of work through things. So I'm with you on that. Other use cases, kind of at that level, things like I'm lactose intolerant, so I kind of put in what I eat in a typical day, and I said, are there, you know, I'm this age, I'm this weight, blah, 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 I work out this much. Are there other things I should be considering in my nutrition or supplements I should be taking to make sure that I'm balanced? What else should I think about? Gave me, you know, I'm not looking for perfection, I'm looking for 80%. You know, it's fine. So, like, I want to get a dog, comparing dog breeds, what works well for my lifestyle. Can I bring this, you know, can I bring this dog breed on Delta? Is it good in apartments? Does it, you know, those kind of personal things as well. But I think now I've kind of entered this, like, next level, as I said, with automations. And, you know, as I said, because I'm trying to automate my workflow, I'm using Zapier, and I started using, like, scripts on, you know, like the Google console and Google Cloud and all this stuff, which I don't have a damn clue about. But I could actually say, hey, I want to automate this workflow, give me instructions. And they would give me instructions, I would just follow the instructions. I'm like, okay, it didn't work. Okay, try this. I'll be like, hey, it gave me this error message. What's not working is this. Cut and paste the script in. So now I could actually, as I said, I can automate, and I can start, you know, creating scripts, etc., that I'm cutting and pasting in, and I'm learning while I'm doing it, because there's not somebody else doing it for me. I'm doing the work, but it's telling me what to do at the same time. And similarly, I can go, hey, you've just written the script, like, what does it mean? Can you explain what JSON is? Like, what is that? It can teach me along the way. So I can actually learn a skill, become more capable at doing something, because it will guide me on the way. How else would I have been able to do that otherwise? You know, it just doesn't, like, find somebody that's an expert that knows how to do this, pay them $200 an hour and have them teach me as a private coach. So, you know, I think it just opens up a lot of opportunities. I think the caution, though, and, you know, I was listening to something recently, they were kind of reminding us that once upon a time, Ubers were like $5 or $6. And now in New York, it's like, to go from like 72nd Street to 65th is like $70. It's like they get you addicted to using these things, and then they just surge the prices up. So I'm going to be stuck when that day comes, because I use it a lot in my everyday life.
And so that's another question, though. Like, you know, I'm like a strictly ChatGPT guy, right?
Yeah.
And like, it's got a year worth of history. Like, the switching cost is switching to another AI. I feel like they're very high, right? Like, why would I go to Gemini now that I have a year and a half of history with ChatGPT? It's not to say that Gemini isn't better, but like, at this point, like, why would I use another AI? Like, I would just stick with one.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. And like, which one's better? I don't know. I think ultimately they're probably quite similar. Maybe some are better at different things. But I think, like, we're never, like, when I say we, I mean you and I, we're never going to be super users. We're not physicists that are trying to, you know, discover the meaning of life. Like, we're rewriting emails. Like, we don't need something that's the best. I haven't really tried Gemini. I haven't really tried the others. I use Perplexity now and then for research, but I'm not like, you know, ChatGPT is fine for me. I think as long as I'd rather pick one, go deep into it, and start, like, playing with all the tools. Have you created a GPT yet? Have you tried that?
No. What's create a GPT? I'm a Gen Xer, remember. I'm a little old school. That's
okay. So to create a GPT means that you're basically, if you have a certain instruction that you're giving it all the time, say for example, you're doing your show notes, and every time you do your show notes, you might say, okay, here's the show notes from the past 10 episodes. This is the style I like. And here's the transcript from our current episode. Create the show notes in the same style as the past 10 episodes. So you might do that. So a GPT would go, well, rather than having to re-explain things every time, you basically ask ChatGPT how to do it. but you basically kind of like pick a function and then you do that exact same command. And now the next time you need to do show notes, you go, hey, here's the latest transcript, create show notes, because it kind of keeps that history.
Gotcha.
So I haven't gone deep into it. But again, it's like another tool that you kind of get to, if you're doing something multiple times, you can go, okay, well, now we've like picked the style, we've given it the information, now I can replicate it, and I've got my little bot that can keep doing it.
Interesting.
So what's next for Real Estate of the Future?
Oh, as I said, not my priority, but my focus right now is putting myself out of a job.
How's that going?
Well, I mean, I'm taking out the boring stuff, the repetitive, admin-y kind of stuff, and I could have paid someone, but I'm enjoying it way too much. So, and my list keeps getting longer about things that I don't have to do anymore. So, I'm geeking out on that.
Love that.
So that's the number one thing I'm doing. Obviously, looking to get on more boards, speaking to a few different clients, and blah 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 blah. I'll be in London next month, which will be great. And just kind of still, kicking on, and seeing where the wind takes me, I guess.
We'll love it.
Yeah,
thanks for joining us.
This was
really
awesome.
fun.
Like, we love geeking out on the future and talking. We're kind of nerds in a way, right?
Yeah, I'm about to build what's it called? A drone taxi port on the Live Local project.
Yeah.
I have to throw that up there.
Check it out, because I think now's the time to make these strategic partnerships. Get in early when they're still like looking for real estate people that are going to advocate for them, and as they become more mature and the adoption curve increases, they'll remember who their friends are. They'll remember who advocated for them early on.
That makes sense.
So that's my 2 cents worth.
Love it.
But yeah.
Cool, Nikki. This was awesome. Seriously, it was really great getting to know you. I'm glad we connected here in Bonita Springs, and great having a cocktail with you too.
Yeah, likewise. Until we.
And we appreciate your Aussie humor or South African humor, whichever one it is.
We'll catch you in the water slides.
Yeah.
Exactly. well, thanks so much for having me. It's been a really fun discussion. So
All right.
in a lot
Thanks,
of directions.
Nikki.
Take care. Cheers.
Cheers.